Hello folks, this is Ross Fleming of Fleming Recordings Nelson speaking to you from the home of Mr. Joe Crowell, Nakusp. That name is spelt C-R-O-W-E-L-L. Mr. Crowell is one of the first old-timers in this territory. What is your full name, Mr. Crowell?
Joseph Stanley Crowell.
Joseph Stanley Crowell. And where were you born?
Arcadia, Yarmouth County, Nova Scotia.
Oh, yes. And when?
September the 14th, 1875.
1875. So that makes you quite a youngster. What is that?
85.
85 years old, eh? Well, you certainly don't look it. You, just now when I met you coming down the street, why, you were coming along so jauntily and with a whistle. Do you always whistle?
Well, sometimes, but fortunately I've never been sick.
Oh, I see.
And
well, it certainly showed a happy disposition when you were whistling away like everything. I believe that you've just had a nice trip back east. Could you tell us something about it?
Well, it's a wonderful trip. I went over by Canada, stopping 2 days in Winnipeg to visit my old friend, Professor Allen, thence to Nova Scotia by plane. I spent 10 days in Yarmouth, across the Bay of Fundy, and 10 days in Boston, Greater Boston, with some relatives. And I've had a most wonderful trip. Very tiring, but it was wonderful. Just got home last night.
Well, I think it's wonderful. A man of your age, I can't get over it saying even that, a man of your age. Why, you look so agile and virile that you certainly belie your years. When did you come to BC?
I came in the spring of '7.
Oh, yes. And
from Winnipeg.
From Winnipeg.
I'd been in Winnipeg 5 years.
Oh, yes. And what was your business when you came to BC?
Well, I was selling land. I was agent for the land company and brought a bunch of settlers with us. But there was nothing doing here. Everything was dead. There's no money. We shot deer and caught rabbits and picked berries to get by. It was a tough going, but we made it.
Mm-hmm.
We made it, and we were never hungry.
Well, that is fine.
And when one would get a deer, it didn't belong to him. It belonged to the crowd. It was divided up to the whole crowd. And the other fellow get on tomorrow, and he divided his up.
Well, we don't like to say the word, but it was almost communism, wasn't it?
Well, it was along that line.
A good form of communism.
If a man was building a hen house or a fence or putting out trees, the neighbors didn't know any better than to come and help him.
Well, that is the way that they used to do it in Ontario too, didn't they?
Yes.
And in the prairies.
In Nova Scotia, in the old days.
The neighbors always
Yeah.
pitched in and did
Yeah.
each other's work. Well, that is wonderful. You...
Then I was in carpentering. I did carpentering. I worked on these boats here, and the undertaking was pushed onto me.
Oh, yes.
There's no one to do it, so I was the undertaker here for years.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Do some of it yet.
I see. You were then working in the shipyard.
Yes.
For a while.
Part of the time.
You would know quite a number of Nelson people.
I knew George Keyes.
Oh, yes.
He was the head, and
yes.
And Bulger.
The two Bulgers.
Two Bulgers.
And then there was Jack French and Jack.
I knew them all.
You knew them all.
Knew them all.
Jack French and Smith and.
Smith and I can't remember
so
the
many
names.
Of them.
So
yes,
many of them.
So many of them. Well, we'll take that for granted. Well, then you've had a rather varied life.
Yes, as Bill Nye said, I was undertaker and confectioner here for.
Oh, I see. So, well, that's quite a. You treat them very well while they're alive, anyway, and you treat them with all respect when they die.
I see.
Well, that is fine. And did you have any hobbies particularly?
Not that those days we couldn't afford hobbies.
No, I see.
I have at the present time.
Mm-hmm. What do you do now?
I make these wheels from the pilot wheel of the old Minto.
Oh yes, Mrs. Johnson showed me one of those.
Yes.
And
I've made over 350 of those little wheels.
Have you still
in the last year and a half?
Have you still got them for
I haven't
sale?
one. Oh, I never sold one in my life.
Oh, that's so?
No, just for a hobby.
Well, I was wanting to buy one because...
I haven't one. I took 28 with me on my trip, and they went just like hotcakes.
Oh, well, whenever you start making them again, remember me.
I will. I'll put your name in my book.
Well, that's fine.
The ladies all put their name in my little black book here with their phone number.
Now, it's just ladies, is it?
Well,
now, be careful.
I'll accept one.
I see. Well, you're good to the ladies anyway. Mrs. Johnson certainly prizes her wheel, and it's a replica of one of the steering wheel on one of the boats.
Yes, the Minto.
The Minto.
The last paddle wheeler on the Arrow Lakes.
And wasn't it some of it was made from the wood? Of
made from the wood of that wheel.
Of that wheel.
Yes.
And have you still some of that wood yet?
Well, I wouldn't like to tell you.
No, I see.
This is just a souvenir of the Minto.
Oh, yes, I see.
But the first 100 were made of that wood.
Yes, I see. Well, that is pretty nice. Well, that's a pretty good hobby, and that gives pleasure to a lot of other people, and that's the kind of hobbies we should have.
Well, sure.
Have you had any unusual happenings in your times?
Oh, yes, I have had several. Too long to recount, you know. I was burned out here in 9/10, the winter of 9/10.
Oh, yes.
And down on near the hotels.
Oh, yes, I see.
And then I built another shop and started in. And in my undertaking, I had one Chinese gentleman died here, a high mason.
Oh, yes.
I kept him for 2 years in my morgue before I shipped him to China.
Oh, that's so.
It's quite a curiosity.
Well.
And he guarded my shop. I never had to lock the door.
Oh, that's so. Nobody would ever come in case the ghost rose.
No, and while I had him there, there was a friend of ours. She was a very nervous girl and very superstitious. And she was a great friend of ours, mother's, and mother lived next door. And she'd never come in my shop while that body was there. But I used to make my caskets, and I had them on a trestle in there.
Oh, yes.
When I got them made, I used to get into them, see how they fitted.
Oh, yes.
And one day when I was in there, she called at the door, Mr. Crowell, and naturally I sat up.
Yes.
And she let a screech out of it. It was hark from the tombs and never stopped. She got here to mother's house.
That's
Poor girl never came to my shop afterwards.
That's all. Well, that would surprise her.
Yes. Well, I didn't do it to frighten her, but
no, but that's you just want to see whether it was
who was calling.
Yes. Well, go ahead if there is some.
There have been several. I have written stories for the Women's Institute. They have a book in the library there, and they're too long to recount over the tape recording, you know, of times I've had to go out into the mountains for bodies that died out there. So the undertaking has been quite an interesting performance.
Yes, I suppose it would be. 2
years I was in Nelson. I was in charge of the funeral home there for Sommers.
For Sommers?
Yes.
Oh, is that so? Well, I knew Sommers.
Ran the ambulance.
Well, I very likely knew you at that time,
very
but
likely.
I don't quite remember. Well, of course, I knew Mr. Sommers very well, and he certainly had the business at that time. 30 and
31, I think it was. I was there.
Oh, yes. Well, that is fine. Well, now, when you first came here, you must have, there must have been quite a number of hardships, as you say.
There were.
Could you give us an idea of what the conditions were about that time?
Well, there was absolutely nothing doing in the winter. Everything dropped dead. And these storekeepers ran us, and it's wonderful the way they did.
Now, first of all, we must explain just the location of Nakusp in the scheme of things. The only way you could get into the Kootenay country in the early days was to come on the main line to Revelstoke, take the train from Revelstoke down to Arrowhead, and then from Arrowhead you took the boat down to Robson, and one of the ports of call, of course, was Nakusp. So that more or less gives us our location. How far are we from Arrowhead?
About 30 miles.
About 30 miles.
I came in the other way. I came to Nelson through the Crow's Nest.
Oh, yes. Well,
And
the
then I
Crow's
came
Nest
to-
was built in the next year, at the time that we came. We
Yeah.
came, my family came in 1897, and that's the way we had to come, through Revelstoke. And then in 1898, the Crow's Nest was built.
Yeah.
And so after that, you came...
I came Crow's Nest, then up to Slocan City,
oh, yes.
and then took the boat to Rosebery,
Oh, yes.
thence the railroad into Nakusp.
Oh, yes.
That's the way I came in.
Yeah.
I went out the other way through,
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
through Revelstoke.
Yes. Oh, well, that's interesting. It's surprising to me and very interesting that there is such easy communication between the Slocan Valley and the Our Lakes Valley.
Yes.
Of course, centering on the cusp here.
Yes.
And they certainly are wonderful valleys. Now, is there anything else in regard to the early days, your difficulties of
Well,
settling?
our great difficulty was in transportation.
Yes.
There were no roads.
No road.
This town site was west of Master Bush.
Yes, I see.
There were the two old hotels, one of them burned down, and a few shacks, one or two houses up there, but it's just a Master Bush.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's all settled. You can hardly buy a lot
Yeah, I
in the
see.
city.
Yes. There's a lot of nice ground around Nakusp.
There is. Nice level town site.
It's a wonderful town site. It's got a great opportunity for growth if the industry comes to it that
Yes.
will promote it.
There's a great dispute as to what the name of Nakusp means.
Oh, yes. I'd like to hear that.
Well, I asked
Here you're
old
correct.
Louis Joseph. I was well acquainted with the Indians.
Oh, yes.
There's about 30 of them at Burton.
Oh, yes.
And I was well acquainted with old Louis and all the Indians. And I asked him one day, what's Nakusp mean? Nakusp, he says, some people say one thing, some say another. He says some people say Nakusp means safety. Come round, point and storm, come in, bay, safety. Another say means water going round, swirling waters.
Oh, yes.
I say, what do you say it means, Joe? He says, I know what Nakusp mean. Nakusp mean not much. Small, little.
Oh, I see.
Nakusp Creek, not much creek. Nakusp Town, not much town.
Oh, I see.
So there you are. Now they're going to dispute this, but that's
Oh.
what Louis Joseph, the chief, told me.
Well,
I know, he
yeah,
said.
I see.
I not guess, I know.
I see. He was the chief of the
Kootenay Indian.
of the Kootenay Indians.
Yes.
And where were their headquarters?
Burton.
Burton. I see. Now, the Indians that are around Creston, are they Kootenay Indians too?
I don't know. I don't think they are. I believe that bunch is all gone.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, the Kootenay Indians.
I couldn't
are-
say for sure. I'm not
Well,
certain.
Bert Herridge says that the Indians, the Kootenay Indians, are all gone.
Yes,
The last surviving one died not long ago. A woman that he used to go to
Yeah,
school with,
Yes.
and so I guess they're pretty well wiped out.
I knew Chief Louis Joseph
Mhm.
well,
Yes, I see.
and that's what he told me.
Yeah.
That'll be disputed. But
Well, that's all right. This is a free country, and you're entitled to your opinion, and I guess we'll have to grant the other people the same
Oh,
right.
sure. Sure.
So that it's all good information anyway, and it's all history.
He says Nakusp mean not much, small,
Yeah.
little.
Yes. I
Not
see.
much doesn't sound good, but it does to me. I think it's cute.
Sure. Well, that's quite all right. By the way, those flat bow boats that canoes that the Indians used to have, Bert Herridge says that they're only found in some of the northern lakes of Siberia and in the Kootenay district.
I can't tell you for that. I
Yes.
don't know.
There's the Creston Board of Booster Club is having a lot of these made for souvenirs.
Yes.
And I bought one because I think it's so very interesting.
Yes.
Because in Nelson, the Indians used to come in there quite regularly in the early days and sell their huckleberries or their fish or anything. And so they're good mementos of the
Yeah, sure are.
of the early days.
I don't know. I can't think. If I'd had time, I could have thought up some wonderful lies to tell you.
Well, I don't know as I'm looking for fiction.
I see.
I'm looking for straight goods. Like one of the closet miners that I just interviewed, he says that's the way it was, and that's the way we took it.
Yes. Well, if after you go away, I'll think of several things.
Oh yes.
That I could have said.
Well, that's fine. I'll be up here again. I'll be coming up to the cusp now and then, and we'll have another session some
That'd
other
be fine.
time.
I'll be very glad to.
And well, I don't know whether we have pretty well covered the ground for the present time, and I want to thank you very much for giving me this interview and in your home, and you seem to be very well settled here. I must say that I had an interview with Bert Herridge the other day, and he has long since forgiven you for selling him the property that you did.
They paid me $110 in Winnipeg to get that man out of Winnipeg.
Oh, that's all?
Yes, I was paid $110 to get him out.
Get Bert Herridge
Yes.
out? Oh, how's that?
Well, I was selling land out here.
Oh, yes. And
I moved him.
And he would be a good booster for...
No, the company paid me $110 to get him out here.
Oh, is that so?
So I can claim that I was paid by the people of Winnipeg $110 to move him out of Winnipeg.
See? Well, what's his opinion of that?
Well, he'll tell you the next time you see him.
Yes, I see.
'Cause we're always at odds when we get together in a meeting.
Oh, is that so? Oh, I see. You and he don't... maybe you're like his father. He said that, Bertie got a blow on the head when he was young, and he was a little bit touched.
Well,
but he's an awfully good head.
He's pretty well touched.
Yes.
I tell you, if they all had a blow on the head, I think it'd be good for them.
That was a good kind of blow.
Yes, I think so.
And he's, no matter what his politics are, he's been a wonderful friend to this district.
And there's a lot of politicians I'd like to give a blow on the head to.
Yes. Well, now talking about politics, I believe you did mention before we started that you did run for a member here at one time, did you?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh, I see. I misunderstood you.
No, I'm not a runner.
Oh, you're not a runner.
But I thought that I was a pretty good liar, and I might make a pretty good politician if I was ever approached.
That is the reference. Eh? Well, that is fine. Well, thanks very much for this interview, and
thank you, sir, and it's been a pleasure. I only wish I could think of something more. As I say, it'll come to me after you leave.
Yes, well, that's always the way.